Hey everyone, and welcome to the Patchnotes rundown of patch 9.04. I haven't been thinking about this too fast. I think like the new patch notes are gonna come in around 1 week, but here they are, and they actually offer a lot of good things, especially a new unit, a new tier 1 unit without a faction. So let's get started and let's have a look at the patch notes. First of all, next weekend on May 28th and 29th, there's gonna be the next Nova Cup to be played. So either make sure to sign up if you want to play it, or otherwise you can as well watch it on Twitch live. I think the first division is always guaranteed to be streamed, and other divisions might be streamed by other casters. So make sure to check it out. It's really interesting, it's entertaining, you can see competitive Legion, and you can learn a lot with it. Okay, then there's a reminder about creator boosts. So content creators now are able to gain a 10% share of your premium essence purchases. I do have a creator boost myself, which is code Bonny, just Bonny in small. So if you are buying premium essence and want to support me, feel free to enter this code and I will get a 10% share of it. But let's get towards the new unit. And what I like most about the new unit is that it does have 2 upgrades, but not, for example, like the Bone Crusher where it has 2 alternatives, or actually it has 3 alternatives, but it does have 2 consecutive upgrades. So you have comparable to Angler or Mask where you upgrade twice the same unit, and all of those units have different abilities, have different stats, which is really interesting. So let's get started. The very first one we're talking about, a tier 1 unit, is the Seedling. I think tier 1 units always matter they always have 2 things to matter about. First of all, their cost, right? You want a tier 1 unit to be cost efficient for their abilities, while I think most tier 1 units basically do not need an ability, but we will come to this in a second. So first of all, we have gold cost of 15, which is perfect. I think 15 gold is something where you really can place a lot of tier 1 units. You do have a cheap one. You can support some builds, for example the cash out flower with such a unit to help you out. Just hold a few things a little bit better. 6 worker cash out flower on 2, stuff like this will be able to be done with a 15 gold tier 1 unit, which is already giving you a benefit. Second thing, tier 1 units matter in my eyes are they ranged or are they melee? Because this especially does decide whether you can range split with them or not. So we do have a 15 gold melee unit, which means okay, you kind of have a nice tank, but you can't range split with it. It does have an ability though. It overall deals 2 damage, and it does have the Razor Leaf, which is each attack deals 100% damage to nearby enemies. So you basically do have a melee unit that deals full AoE damage in a very small area, right? I tested the unit already with some other guys on my stream, and it does have like a really small area of effect. If I would have to say it's like 1 field, maybe 2/3 of a field, something like this, where it does have this area of effect, but overall it only deals 2 damage, right? So you do have 100% AoE damage of 2 damage, so it does deal 2 AoE damage in general. First of all, the unit only has 100 HP, right? So you already see, well, this ability is not really making a lot of sense. And this is some point I kind of feel about is that there's so many tier 1 units that have abilities, but you do not need those abilities. Or let's say different, some units are too weak to have such a great ability. I mean, this ability is amazing, right? Give it on a bigger unit, it basically is the Asteria, or the Avenger, but give it on a bigger unit maybe, and it would be a lot smarter. But there's one use case where I can really see it, and this is the units that almost 2-shot wave in the early game. Wave 3, for example, Nightmare almost 2-shots the wave. The Sky Queen almost 2-shots the waves. And if you now have a Seedling that is dealing a little bit of damage, maybe 1 or 2 attacks are fine, the units, the Nightmare, the Sky Queen, are now able to two-shot those units, which is going to be a massive improvement of their holding capabilities. So this is the use case I can see, maybe even Deep Coiler on 7 and 8. That might get countered by a Hermit or whatever, might get help from a few Seedlings to, again, two-shot the wave. I don't know yet, but this is like the best option for me to use this ability effectively. The second upgrade is the Chloropixy. And in my eyes, this is the best upgrade, or the best stage of all those three. What does change? We have upgrade cost of 85, so the unit now costs a total of 100. And we have some changes here. We have quite a nice attack speed, and we do have a range change. So from melee, the unit now goes ranged, which is especially great if you want to get a range split of fairly a small price, but we will come to this in a second. The unit still is natural magic damage, which is definitely something to mention, since Dragon Turtle are hard counter to the unit, and since it is kind of an early game unit as a tier 1, obviously Dragon Turtles for only 40 Mythium can really hard counter you. But what is interesting about this unit is, first of all, from a melee unit you get a ranged unit, right? So you are able to now get a range split. Even more important, if this unit dies this wave, gain 8 Mythium after wave ends. This combines two things. Every wave the unit dies, you get 8 Mythium, which is very important to note. It's not only one wave where you build the unit or whatever, but every time it dies. And the second thing is you can get a range split with it. So this unit is somewhat comparable to a red, right? Obviously it's a lot more expensive, and on top you do have the downside that you get less Mythium. But reds are something people either build in the early game to make use of the higher generation option, because reds in general generate a little bit more Mythium in the early game, since the waves are shorter there than workers. So reds are either built in the very, very early game to make use of this, or in the late game to overbuild, but still having some source of Mythium gathering. What the Chloropixy now does is, in the early game, fine, right? You could argue some, okay, I only build a Chloropixy, push 5 workers, league hard though, and then again, I'm afraid of it getting a Dragon Turtle on 2, whatever, and then maybe even being able to get out a 60 cent on 2 if your mate has a Bone Crusher or whatever. This could be possible, but what is even more important to note is, you now have this unit, and you can just build in the split, right? It gives you the benefit of a range split. If you want to know more about range split, there's videos on my channel about this. And you do not have to like send away your value like you would have to do with the reds, but you can just position all of those in the split. You can make sure that they die every round, because the split just has to move through those units until it reaches your main side. So you get Mythium every round, you can overbuild like this, and you do not fear to get undercut when you just send away your reds. So this is just another source of Mythium income, which is going to be really, really interesting, and this offers whole new techniques to build, which I think is like the best thing about the new unit. The third upgrade is the Sankura. It once again adds another 150 gold to the upgrade cost, which makes a total of 250 gold, so you could just perfectly place it at the beginning. And I think this was as well the intention behind it. You get more HP, you get more damage, all this. It still stains a ranged unit, and it still does have magic and natural attack and defense types. But what is the spell of the third unit? Be aware as well that every time you upgrade the unit, the spell from the previous ones are gone. So you only do have the current spell of the unit that is displayed here. The spell is the Super Bloom. And the other side, not dying a unit, but as a unit survives the wave, important either on your side of the lane and in the middle ground as well. So if your mate leaks hard and your Sakura dies, the effect is gone as well. It permanently gains 150 HP and 8 damage. So this is 10% of the base health and 10% of the base attack damage. the fighter value increases by 20 per stack. So compared to Kingpin, you get a buff based on the stacks you have. Where's the problem with this unit? First of all, you will have to start with 2 workers. This is already giving you a huge deficit. Second of all, I mentioned before, the unit is hard countered by dragon turtles. So usually you could say, okay, if the unit now is gonna hold me 1, 2, 3, I can build it on 1, I can take the lower worker count, and then I can get some stacks already, and maybe I can like get this raid boss tier 1 unit in the early game, where up until wave 10 I have already 7 stacks, and then it's actually efficient. But to do so, you would always have to play safe because you need the unit to survive. Your mate can't leak, you get hard countered by dragon turtles, your Sakura can't even hold a double snail onto wave 2. We don't want to talk about dragon turtles here. So overall, the unit as it is at the moment feels really weak, and I cannot see it being a wave 1 opener so far. I tested it in 3 or 4 games, I can't remember anymore how many we played, and we tested it, and what we came to a conclusion at the moment, at the current stats, this upgrade is just the stats are way too weak and the dragon turtles hard counters it. This is going to be really interesting and offers a lot of new techniques, and this is, well, okay, right? So this is my personal opinion so far, but let me know what you think about the unit and what you think about it as patches live. Now let's jump towards other changes and other new features. For example, the new Legion spell Counterattack. Counterattack, every time you leak, gain 50 Mythium. Let me share my honest opinion, this spell is a joke. First of all, you need to leak for it, right? So in general, it is mostly only good if you're behind, because if you're ahead, you kind of not want to leak, especially with shutdown in place. Maybe if you can manage to like pro league 1 or 2 waves, fine. But then there's other spells, right? You have All Out of Assault giving you 100 Mythium, which already requires you to leak 2 times to get the equal amount of Mythium. So the earliest you can get this is after wave 12, which is already 2 waves later. Second of all is the current situation just doesn't allow you to play for some late game where this spell would actually be efficient. And third of all, obviously, you just can only play it if you're behind it. Then you have to leak to make some progress. This doesn't really synergize too well unless you're like really small leaking. So I think the stats are too low. You just have every other offensive spell is a lot better because you get it directly, and the Mythium you get directly then comes back into income, so boost your economy on top. You do not have to leak for it. You need to leak it at least 3 times, I think, to actually have it efficient, and this just takes you too long to manage. So overall, I think the spell is really weak. I cannot see any use case so far, but maybe I'm just totally wrong. And this, we will see some pro league matchups, some suicide strategies with it. So far, I think the spell is really weak, especially since you get the Mythium after you leaked, right? So you never are able to like leak big, but you only are allowed to leak small with this spell. You have a new skin, the Hypnotic Angler. I mean, what should we talk about it, right? It looks amazing. The nice face, the nice, what is this? An octopus on the backside of the angler looks really amazing. Definitely worth a buy. New secret card, I'm out of here, fine. We have new probability graph for everyone who enjoys Legion competitive. You saw that there's a nice probability now at each team side, which is based on some calculation I don't know about, but now this graph also is displayed at the end of the game, so you can see what Jules gave you as your winning chance. I think we should not like focus too hard on it. I think it's still a number, and every number and graph in Legion can show you your gold you're ahead, your workers you're ahead, but in general it doesn't show the combo, right? Some combos are just 1,000 times better even though they're 1,000 value less, and vice versa. So always keep that in your mind. Finally, we reached the game balance section. Pathing and targeting some changes. At least only some anti-stuck stuff. I hope there's no more. And one thing I think was really crucial and a lot of players were hoping for is the wave Mythium generation rate is decreased from 8% to 7%. Overall, I am an enjoyer of this patch because it just gives them a little bit more faster, more aggressive games compared to the meta we had for half a year before that. But I really thought that waves lost their identity based on the send size, and this is already getting a little bit of the wave identity back. Next on, what I'm really curious about, and I actually never thought this is going to happen, is King Regeneration is getting buffed. Because I always feel like, especially if your King is at around 30 or lower percent, the regeneration already is nuts. But now we have a 25% King Regeneration buff. So I think this is an approach to once again make leaking a bit better because of the new spell, and obviously to now get the short games we got. Like a lot of games ended on 12, 14 because we just managed to like pump out a lot of big sends on these waves due to the worker change. Like you send maybe 10, then you have two waves, bam, 12 cent, bam, 14 cent, like common thing like this. And now this might help you to survive those waves, regenerate some HP back, and then finish the game a little bit later, or to prevent early game leaks being too impactful. Mastermind option changes. We have Castle getting changed from plus 40 in income to plus 43. Well, Castle obviously in the current meta is really weak, especially since the average game length now is, I would estimate, at around 13, 14. So Castle is a lot less efficient. You have Cartel being very oppressive. Castle is being somewhat of the opposite, kind of weak. So I can definitely see the buff here. I think 43% are 43 income are still not going to be amazing for it, but probably okay. Fiesta getting some changes. Fiesta is a really weak spell overall. I think it's still gonna stay weak. We have Magician once more changed. I still remember when Magician from Central changed to a flat regeneration 1.5 years ago. I think it started with 0.3 or 0.35 mana per second. Now we are already at 0.5, so it really seems like Magician is a spell that isn't a lot used. We have the lowest win rate and fourth least picked spell in the game. I can see this, right? There isn't a lot of combos at the moment you would like to play Magician on, right? You would rather use a Starcrawler, and aside from this, there aren't really a lot of combos that use mana and that are OP at the current time. A spell that feels very strong though, especially offering you a lot of flexibility, is Pawnshop. We see it here, it has the fourth highest win rate and the second most picked spell. I think that the nerf is mainly because of it being the second most picked spell and less about the win rate, because I think fourth highest win rate in how many spells is that? 12, 13? I would guess. I think fourth highest win rate is still okay, right? But it is obviously high picked. Some people like it because you can just move around your build. I think 90% selling chance with 75 gold flat you get at wave 11 is still going to be really, really strong. So the spell definitely going to be worth a pick still. I think the Rat's increase of Mythium generation is gonna be part of one, Rats being really weak, right? You do not really want to have it in the early game. Yes, you want to have Swift armor in the early game that the Rats have, but impact damage is really by far the weakest source of damage, so you do not really want to have Rats here. And well, the Mythium generation especially is good in the early game, but at the moment you'd rather want to get the worker lead instead of only the Mythium lead, because the worker lead will help you on 10 and consecutive waves a bit more. This is why Reds aren't really played a lot here, and I think on top of this, the new unit, the Chloropixy, I think is the name, is gonna challenge the Red to actually get some buffs. One thing I'm really, really sad about is Atom. We have a huge nerf, 700 to 670 HP. The huge nerf, not in terms of numbers, right? This is a 5% nerf. But what is huge is Atom Opener is really strong at the moment. I think with this change, it really isn't anymore because Atom already is quite squishy, and now losing another 30 HP is not going to help it out. Atom is an early game unit, it doesn't scale at all these days. So I think, well, probably going to be dead again. We will see. One unit that is not amazing at all, oh wonder, is the Sky Queen. It now gets even more attack speed. And I think I am preaching it since a long time. Sky Queen is gonna be amazing again as a 2-shots the wave. But now it got so many buffs. I think it was at least 25%, 20-25% buffs the last 3, 4, 5 patches. Plus the Seedling now coming out that allows the Sky Queen to theoretically 2-shot the wave. Maybe Sky Queen Seedling, and if you then have either a Steed or an Infiltrator on top, maybe that's gonna be worth a opener again. I will try it out, I think. My Sky Queen win rate overall is really good, but I only pick them if I either have the perfect roll for them or if I have no other chance. A unit that is very broken, especially with the right combos, is the Sea Dragon and Lifebinder, right? Especially if you have units to use that have more efficient HP. Sora, Green Devil, Lioness and stuff. It's really going to help you out. You can buff this monster unit so their mana regeneration is decreased by 5%, which is, I think, overall totally okay. One unit that seems to have a very high win rate, I would really like to know what win rate very high is. I think I remember that they name a very high win rate, everything that is around 54, 55% and more as very high, and I could imagine that the win rate of an Avenger is that high. It's broken with Butcher. It isn't too bad without, because you just have the Swift Armor once again. You have the attack speed increase, you have HP increase if you just manage to let it survive. So it's just overall a very good carry unit, and it just offers you can't see free hold, but a very good chance of a hold on specific waves. Like 10, it's really strong. You have 13, 14. So there's quite a bunch of waves. 17, where this unit really can shine. Hydra getting buffed. It has a very low win and pick rate, which isn't really surprising, right? I think the unit, if you open with Hydra, is still amazing, but the possibilities to protect your Hydra at the moment aren't as strong. You would always have to stay 2 workers. And wave 7, 8 can be hard counter with like medium-sized Sense. The Mimic already is doing a big job, or the Triple Brute, whatever, is already doing a big job on those waves against the Hydra. So I really do like the 10% damage buffs. You can see it here, damage buffed by 10%. Obviously Hydra in the late game isn't really a thing anymore. I think getting out the X-Hex there is more often, okay, I want to force you to send, rather than, okay, I need value. So if you play X-Hex in the late game, it's more about directing the sense of your opponent instead of actually gaining value. That's what I think. And last but not least, we have some wave changes. I mean, wave 18 is a joke at the moment. We have more HP, we have more attack speed. I think the wave is still going to be really weak compared to wave 17 and 19 before and after, but I really like that there's some buffs to be mentioned to come for 18, because 18 at the moment is just not a wave you can hold with full impact units and fortified armor. Basically, it's really weak at the moment. And something I do not see often in the patch notes is some closing remarks. So we have some thank yous from the dev team that you're sticking around with Legion. You have the reminder that if you haven't reviewed the game yet, do so. And so I'm telling you as well, if you haven't reviewed the game yet, do so. I'm pretty sure if they ask for reviews, there's going to be some sort of marketing push in the future where a good review might help the game. Obviously, share your opinion about the game, overall, I really like the patch. I love the ideas of the unit. I think the stats are just a bit too weak, especially the Sakura one. I'm super happy with the changes in the patch overall. I think it's actually solid. I would have wished for some aqua buffs, maybe counter a mole a bit more in wave 8. This is kind of annoying. Apart from this, I think the patch is really nice. We have new skins. The spell is kind of irrelevant. I can't really see a use case for it. The new unit is cool, new design, amazing. Having a new unit overall, there's new cups, everything. I'm overall happy with the patch. I hope you are as well. I hope you liked the video. See you next time. Bye bye.